Hello YouTube and welcome back to making bombs out of gold, or gold out of corpses, or bombs out of corpses, so recently I was on the hunt for a new commander to play that would be fun, and I cycled through a lot of stuff and archetypes and whatnot. I wanted to play Wilhelt the Rock Cleaver for a while, and Ryu Storm's Edge, Anawan the Ruin Thief, things like that. And I don't know how exactly. Well, I do. That's a complete and total lie. But we'll get to that later. But I stumbled upon, well, you probably already know, Zayatora, the Incinerator. So Zayatora is a very, very interesting commander. You see, Zayatora is what some people might call toxic or mean, and you would be right. But Zayatora is fun, and that's just what I would be looking for in a deck. So here we are, I guess. So how did you come across Zayatora, you might ask? Well, I was playing some games of Arena, just having a little bit of fun, just playing with my very normal and cool Satoru Umezawa deck, obviously, the nicest deck ever, and I stumbled across a Xander the Collector deck. Now, Xander is what you might call mean, because it's fucking like Grixis discard, but also mill, but also sacrifice. It's just everything that makes Grixis a toxic color combination, the toxic color combination. So I lost horribly, but I was still intrigued because I realized there's a card for one leader of the gangs of New Capenna, and its effect is pretty cool and fun to play with, not against. So I figured the other ones would be kind of cool too. I looked through all of them, and Rafine, Scheming Seer seemed sort of underwhelming. Falco Spara, well, while I do think he is cool, he was not, um, well, not very good, in my opinion. But hey, I'm kind of new to Magic, so I guess I could be wrong. But then I set my eyes upon Zayatora, the Incinerator. Now, if you remember my Locust God video, you might know that there was a certain competitor for Locust God that a lot more people used, namely Niv Mizzet Perrin. And let me tell you, if I had $1 billion for every time there was a dragon-like being that was the slightly better alternative to one of my favorite commanders, I would have $2 billion, which is still a very, very large amount of money, and I would not be complaining. But given the context of the scenario, it wouldn't be that much of a unit because it only occurred twice. So I would sort of be left in a roundabout scenario where I could be a little bit disappointed that it didn't happen more often, but at the same time, since it did happen twice, now I do have $2 billion. And what I'm trying to say here is that it's a funny little thing. What is this funny little thing, you may ask? Well, Corvold Fey Cursed King. So, if you go on EDH Rec, you look at the top 5 Jund commanders. We've got Lord Windgrace and Henzi at 2 and 3, which just disregard. And then Corvold is at number 1 with 14,419 decks, and Zayatora, the Incinerator, is at 7,879 decks. And the problem with this disparity is that, well, first of all, Zayatora is half of the decks that Corvold has, which is just a travesty in itself. But also, Corvold sort of directly opposes the abilities of Zayatora. They're both flyers, they're both pretty strong, they're both sacrifice-based, and they're both slightly more expensive than I believe they should be. Like Zayatora's $5 and Corvold's like $10, which I don't love, but I'll live, I guess. So, Corvold's Fakehurst King's ability reads, whenever Corvold Fakehurst King enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Wow, what a garbage ability. That's such a dumb ability in itself. You don't get the option to sacrifice permanents, not like Zayatora. So, clearly 1 point for Zayatora, negative 40 points for Corvold, and I'm being generous here. And then Corvold's second ability is whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Corvold and draw a card. While you do get card advantage, whatever that means, you also have to sacrifice a permanent every time. While you could just not attack with Corvold, I can't lose my 4 damage per turn. That's just not happening. So, assuming I'm swinging out every single turn, what if I run out of creatures to sacrifice? What then? I'll just have to sacrifice my lands, and then I'll cry. I don't want to lose my lands. I don't want to lose my lands. You just don't get it. I've lost too much to land destruction, and I can't do this anymore. Then look at Corvold versus Zayatora in who looks cooler. Zayatora, obviously. Because Zayatora is not only a rich person, but she gives you money. Corvold is supposedly a dragon noble, but we don't know that. He doesn't make any treasure tokens. He could be completely lying about his nobleship status. And also, Zayatora is like a gang leader, which is so much more of a cooler title than just being some random king that got fucked with by fairies. Like, getting cursed by fairies? What a loser. I mean, it is kind of a cool curse to have, just to be able to eat whatever you want and be a dragon. But still, Zayatora is just clearly better. On top of that, we have look at the two cards. Alright, we got Corvold Fakehurst King, we got Zayatora the Incinerator, right? They are both creatures. Why did I say that? Why did I need to... I don't know where I'm going. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Corvold has had 2 sets. Zayatora has had 1. Which might be... You might be sad. You might be like, no, you can't have infinite Zayatora cards. And I know. But, hear me out. The fact that Corvold has had 2 sets is actually detrimental to him. So his first set, on his introduction, in Eldraine, there was Throne of Eldraine. Corvold was also given a card in Wilds of Eldraine, and Zayatora only has 1 card. While this might seem like a point towards Corvold to you, the card was actually fucking garbage. It's shit. It's garbage. Let me read the effect for you. For Corvold Gleeful Glutton. Now, the art is really cool on this. I will give him that. But let's just look at the effect real quick. 5 generic, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. Already a steep cost for what seems to be a subpar card, but do go on. Legendary creature, Dragon Noble. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each card type among permanents you've sacrificed this turn. So, one thing I've come to learn is that when a card costs less to cast for any reason other than being influenced by other outside forces, the card is probably not that good. Look at Emrakul, the Promised End. Sure, it's a big boy. It's a 13/13 Eldrazi with, like, flying and trample and, I think, protection from multicolored, if I'm not mistaken. This card costs 1 less to cast for each card type among permanents in your graveyard. This card actually just isn't that good. It's really just a one-time gimmick, and when you ninjutsu it in, it doesn't even provide any effects. When you cast it, it lets you steal the opponent's turn, but then they get to have another fucking turn. It's so gimmicky and literally does nothing for you outside of that. I have a weird bias towards ETB triggers, and that that meaning I don't really like ETB triggers being valued over the just normal standard ability, just because I want continuous value out of the card that I just spent my precious mana on. So maybe that's a bit dumb. I guess you could just blink your permanents, but like who, why, how do blink permanents? So anyway, the rest of Corvold's effect reads: Flying, Trample, Haste. Whenever Corvold deals combat damage to a player, put X+1/+1 counters on Corvold and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanent types among cards in your graveyard. So, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think this card was that bad when I first saw it. However, spending like what's probably going to be more like 5 mana on this guy who just gets sort of incrementally stronger every turn, depending on if you're attacking with him or not, which hopefully you will be. And, you know, for like a 4-drop, I don't think this is that bad, but the fact that they just made him 8 mana and do the weird cost less to cast thing is just such a strange thing. And also, he isn't even his own like mini sack outlet like original Corvold is, which just sort of proves my point that Corvold is in fact the worst card ever in the game. New move over, Niv Mizzet. There's a new shit poo bad stink man in town, which just sort of seals his fate as the bad, the worst, the not good, the dumb, the stupid, the short, the no friends, the not very tall. What I'm trying to say here is just that Corvold, in general, isn't that worth it. And you should play Zayatora. Because, like, come on, a card with a bad card? I mean, sure, Corvold, Faker King, he may be a good or meta card, but really, I get his facade. I'm seeing through him, because really, he was just trying to get us to drop our guards and spend $15 on a fucking cardboard rectangle, when in reality, he's just a loser who does loser things. And why does he make you spend 8 mana on, but not really? God, just that is such. He's just not. It's just not good. It's just not good. So, what did we learn here today? Well, we learned that Corvold bad, Zayatora good, but if you still think, by some miracle, that Corvold is still meta or good, then just put him in the Zayatora deck. I made the same point in the Locust God video, but really, the rivals that I argue against are always going to be very optimal in your deck with the superior guy. But as I have stated before and will state again billions of times, Zayatora is fucking top, peak, best. So just get rid of Corvold. I'm already thinking of it because I don't want to spend $15 fucking on just Corvold, you know? So just drop him, throw him in the trash, get rid of him, kill him, murder all of his family members and friends. Well, actually, he probably did that already. Yeah, no, he probably ate them all anyway. Well, we'll cannibalize him too. We have the powers of demons, dragons, fucking Italian mobsters. Madon, I'm walking here. Forget about it. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I need to say. I arrest my briefcase. Goodbye. Ahem. Get out while you can, backflip jacket man. There be not babies here.